A little girl in the crowd made a strange hand gesture no one understood, except the royal guard. Seconds later, he broke formation, stopped the entire parade, and what happened next left everyone in stunned silence. The morning sun shone on Buckingham Palace as tourists gathered for the changing of the guard ceremony. Children perched on parents' shoulders while tour guides explained the tradition's significance. "This ceremony dates back over 500 years, a guide told her group. "These aren't just ceremonial figures. They're active-duty soldiers who've served in combat zones." Guard Sergeant Theo Marwood stood at attention, morning light gleaming off his polished brass buttons. 8 years in the Royal Regiment had taught him to remain perfectly still while maintaining complete awareness, a skill honed in combat that served him equally well during ceremonial duties. As the band struck up and the formation began to move, Marwood's eyes remained forward, but his attention cataloged everything: the crowd's murmurs, the summer breeze, and the rhythm of boots striking stone, all familiar elements of his duty. Little did he know that today's parade would test not just his discipline, but his humanity in ways no battlefield ever had. Among the excited faces, 7-year-old Lily Davis stood unnaturally still, her hand trapped in her stepfather's tight grip. Unlike other bouncing children, Lily's posture was rigid, her eyes darting nervously between the guards and her stepfather. "Stand up straight," Sam Davis muttered, yanking her arm, "and remember what I told you." Lily nodded quickly, wincing as his fingers dug into her shoulder. Despite the warm June morning, she wore a long-sleeved blue dress that covered her arms completely, an odd choice that had drawn curious glances. When Sam checked his phone, his grip loosened momentarily, and Lily's sleeve rode up, revealing fading yellow bruises circling her wrist. She quickly tugged the fabric down, eyes wide with practiced fear. "Can I take a picture of the guards, Dad?" she whispered. "Stop asking questions," Sam replied, his polite tone not matching the coldness in his eyes. "And don't call me that in public. It's Sam, remember?" As the guards marched closer, Lily stared in wonder at their crisp red uniforms. For a brief moment, childlike fascination overcame her caution. Marwood noticed her immediately, not because she was distinctive, but because her stillness amid the excited crowd triggered the same instincts that had kept him alive in combat. His peripheral vision caught the contrast between her fascinated eyes and rigid posture, how she calculated each movement before making it. Their eyes met briefly as he passed. In that instant, Marwood recognized something that military training had taught guards to spot: fear disguised as obedience, not a child's temporary fear, but something deeper, more ingrained. The man beside her, athletic, with an expensive watch and cultivated stubble, tightened his grip when he noticed her attention wandering. The girl immediately looked down, shifting from interested to invisible in seconds. Marwood continued his march, face betraying nothing, but his combat-trained mind had flagged the interaction for observation. As the ceremony progressed, Marwood maintained his ceremonial precision, while keeping the girl and her stepfather in his peripheral vision. The contrast between them grew more apparent with each passing minute. The man's confident, almost arrogant bearing versus the child's careful, measured movements. A family with 2 young boys about Lily's age moved through the crowd, positioning themselves next to Sam and Lily. The mother smiled warmly at Lily, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "First time seeing the changing of the guard?" she asked Lily, her Scottish accent gentle and friendly. "My boys have been talking about it all week." Before Lily could respond, Sam shifted slightly, placing himself between her and the woman. "We're trying to watch, if you don't mind," he said with a tight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Of course, sorry to bother," the woman replied, exchanging a quick glance with her husband. Lily's eyes dropped to the ground, but not before Marwood caught her longing look at the other children. The boys were giggling, pointing excitedly at the guards' bearskin caps, their parents encouraging their enthusiasm. The contrast with Lily's enforced silence was striking. As Marwood executed a perfect turn, his line of sight briefly included Sam and Lily again. The man had bent down, whispering something in the girl's ear. Though his expression remained pleasant for any onlookers, Lily's face had drained of color. When Sam straightened up, he casually adjusted Lily's collar. The movement pulled her sleeve up just enough to reveal distinct bruising around her upper arm. The unmistakable pattern of fingerprints left by an adult hand gripping too tightly. A middle-aged couple standing nearby noticed it too. The woman's hand flew to her mouth and she whispered something to her husband, who frowned deeply at Sam. "Lovely ceremony, isn't it?" the man said, deliberately engaging Sam while his wife smiled at Lily. "Your daughter seemed fascinated by it all." Sam's jaw tightened visibly. "She's not really interested in this stuff," he replied curtly. "We're just killing time before our tour." "Oh, but she seems quite engaged," the woman persisted kindly, bending slightly toward Lily. "Are you enjoying the guards, sweetheart?" Lily's eyes widened, caught between hope and terror. She glanced up at Sam, whose smile had hardened into something dangerous that only she recognized. "She's shy," Sam said, pulling Lily against his side, with what appeared to be fatherly affection, but was actually a warning squeeze. "And we don't talk to strangers, do we, Lily?" "No, Sam," she whispered, the formality of using his name not lost on the couple. As the formation changed again, Marwood's path brought him closer to their position. He could see Lily tracking his movements with unusual intensity for a child her age. Something in her gaze reminded him of civilians in war zones, people looking for anyone who might help. Sam noticed her watching the guards and bent down again. "Remember what happens if you make a scene?" he whispered, his voice carrying just far enough for Marwood to hear. "Straight back home. And you know what that means." Lily's small body tensed, and she nodded quickly, fear flashing across her face. The elderly couple exchanged concerned glances, the woman's hand clutching her husband's arm as they observed Sam's increasingly controlling behavior. When Sam turned away momentarily to check his phone, the husband, a retired teacher with 40 years' experience recognizing troubled children, made another attempt. "Pardon me," he said quietly to Lily, "but I dropped my program. Would you be kind enough to hand it to me?" He gestured to the ceremonial program that had fallen suspiciously close to Lily's feet. Lily looked up at Sam, who was still distracted, then carefully bent to retrieve the paper. As she extended it toward the man, their fingers touched briefly. "Are you all right, dear?" the woman whispered, her eyes kind but concerned. Lily's lips parted, words forming but unspoken, as Sam's attention snapped back to her. "What did I just say about talking to strangers?" Sam hissed, snatching the program and thrusting it at the elderly man. "Here's your paper. Now mind your own business." He grabbed Lily's arm roughly, pulling her away from the couple and closer to the parade barrier. The sudden movement caused Lily's sleeve to ride up, revealing a distinctive pattern of bruises at different healing stages, some yellow and fading, others fresh and purple. "We're just concerned," the elderly man began. "About what?" Sam interrupted, his voice carrying enough of an edge that nearby tourists turned to look. "About a father spending the day with his daughter? Is that so unusual?" "Stepmother," Lily corrected automatically, her voice barely audible. The crowd's shift had positioned them closer to where Marwood stood at attention. Though his eyes remained fixed ahead as protocol demanded, his training allowed him to register every detail of the escalating situation just feet away. "What did you say?" Sam's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper, fingers digging into Lily's shoulder. "Nothing. Sorry, Sam," she replied quickly, shrinking into herself. The elderly woman took a step forward, maternal instinct overriding caution. "Young man, that child is clearly—" "Mind your own family and I'll mind mine." Sam cut her off, his charm completely evaporated. "Come on, Lily. We're finding a better spot." He pulled Lily roughly through the crowd, positioning them even closer to the ceremonial route and directly in Marwood's line of sight. As they pushed forward, Lily stumbled slightly. Sam yanked her upright with unnecessary force, causing several onlookers to frown. "Do that again, and we're going straight home," he threatened. Under his breath, "No stops, no exceptions. Understand?" Lily nodded mutely, but something had changed in her expression. As fear gave way to desperation, her eyes locked onto Marwood's with startling intensity. Marwood maintained his ceremonial stance, but behind the practiced neutrality of his expression, his mind was racing. 8 years in the regiment had taught him to recognize the signs of someone reaching a breaking point. The girl's body language had shifted from defensive to something more urgent, the look of someone making a final decision. The elderly couple had followed, maintaining their distance but unwilling to abandon their concerns. They weren't the only ones watching now. A young mother nearby had noticed the interaction and was discreetly pointing her phone in Sam's direction, while a tall man in a university sweatshirt had positioned himself closer, his posture suggesting he was ready to intervene if necessary. Sam sensed the mounting attention and leaned down to Lily, his expression pleasant but his whispered words anything but. "Everyone's watching because of you. When we get home, you'll wish you'd never been born. One more mistake and—" He stopped abruptly, noticing how intently Lily was watching the guards. His fingers tightened around her wrist, hard enough that tears sprang to her eyes. "Stop looking at them," he ordered. "They can't help you. Nobody can." The ceremonial drums echoed across the palace grounds as the changing of the guard reached its pivotal moment. Tourists raised their phones higher, eager to capture the perfect image of British tradition, but Sergeant Marwood's attention had narrowed to the small girl standing just 10 feet from his position. Lily Davis stood perfectly still, her eyes never leaving Marwood's face. There was something in her gaze that cut through the ceremonial distance, a silent plea that spoke directly to the soldier behind the uniform. As Sam became momentarily distracted by someone bumping into him from behind, Lily seized her opportunity. With deliberate, practiced movements that no 7-year-old should have needed to learn, Lily raised her small hand to her face. To casual observers, she might have been merely waving or pushing hair from her eyes. But to Marwood, who had received the same mandatory training as all service personnel working with the public, the gesture was unmistakable. Her little fist opened and closed, then pressed against her palm. The universal children's distress signal taught in schools and child protection programs across the country. "Help me. I'm in danger." Marwood's combat-trained mind registered the signal instantly. cataloging it alongside the bruises, the controlled fear, the stepfather's threatening behavior, all forming a clear picture of a child in immediate danger. Sam caught the movement just as Lily completed it. His face darkened as he realized what she'd done. "What was that?" he demanded, grabbing her wrist mid-motion. "What did you just do?" "Nothing," Lily whispered, true terror now replacing the practiced fear she'd shown. "Earlier. I was just—" "You signaled him, didn't you?" Sam's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper as his fingers dug into her arm. "You little liar! We're leaving now!" He began pulling her backward through the crowd, his grip visibly painful. Lily's feet stumbled as she was dragged away, her eyes still locked on Marwood in a final, desperate plea. For 8 years, Sergeant Theo Marwood had stood guard in perfect, unwavering discipline. Through rain and snow, through tourist pranks and provocations, through physical discomfort and mental fatigue, he had maintained the ceremonial stillness that defined the Queen's Guard. Now, in the space between one heartbeat and the next, Marwood made the decision that would change both his life and Lily's forever. The crowd gasped audibly as Marwood broke formation. The sound of his boots striking the stone pathway echoed in the sudden silence as tourists lowered their cameras in confusion. His movements were precise, purposeful, not the actions of someone breaking protocol on a whim, but of a soldier responding to a threat with tactical precision. "What's happening?" someone in the crowd whispered loudly. "Is this part of the ceremony?" The other guards maintained their positions, years of training preventing any reaction to this unprecedented breach, though their eyes tracked Marwood's movement with professional assessment of the situation. Sam froze mid-step. Lily still clutched in his grip as he realized the guard was moving directly toward them with unmistakable purpose. The crowd naturally parted, creating a clear path between Marwood and his objective. "Time to go," Sam muttered, yanking Lily's arm hard enough that she cried out. But it was too late. The ceremonial guard that tourists thought of as merely decorative was revealing his true nature. A highly trained soldier moving with the focused intensity of someone who had navigated far more dangerous situations than this. In that moment, as Marwood covered the distance between them with measured strides, Sam Davis realized his fundamental mistake. He had dismissed the guard as nothing more than a man in a costume, forgetting that beneath the ceremonial uniform was a soldier who had sworn to protect, and who had just received a signal he would not ignore. "Sir?" Marwood's voice carried the weight of military authority, cutting through the murmurs of the confused crowd. "I need you to release the child." Sam's expression cycled rapidly through shock, outrage, and calculation. His grip on Lily loosened slightly, but he didn't let go. "This is my daughter," he said, forcing a confused laugh. "We're just leaving to catch our tour bus." Marwood's posture remained parade ground perfect, but there was nothing ceremonial about his presence now. "Sir, I observed the distress signal. Protocol requires me to ensure the child's safety." His eyes flicked briefly to Lily. "Young lady, are you all right?" Before Lily could answer, Sam cut in. "This is ridiculous. She was just waving, playing around. Tell him, Lily." Lily's eyes dropped to the ground, years of conditioning fighting against the hope of rescue. When she looked up again, her gaze moved between Sam's warning glare and Marwood's steady presence. She began, her voice barely audible. "She's fine," Sam insisted, pulling Lily closer to his side in what appeared to be a protective gesture, but was clearly restraint. This is completely inappropriate. You're supposed to be standing guard, not harassing tourists. Two palace security officers had noticed the disruption and were moving toward them, speaking quietly into their radios. The crowd had formed a loose circle around the scene, many recording with their phones despite the uncomfortable tension. "My primary duty is to protect," Marwood stated with calm precision, addressing not just Sam but the gathering crowd. The young lady used a recognized distress signal, taught to children for emergencies. He turned his attention fully to Lily, softening his tone slightly. "Did someone teach you that signal in school?" Lily nodded almost imperceptibly, hope beginning to replace fear in her eyes. "She was waving, for God's sake," Sam insisted, his charm returning as he addressed the crowd. "This is absurd. My daughter and I are here on vacation, and suddenly we're being treated like criminals." "Just, a few questions, sir, to clear things up," Marwood replied, his tone professional but unyielding. He positioned himself subtly, blocking any easy exit route. "Perhaps the young lady would be more comfortable speaking with one of our female officers." A woman in a police uniform was approaching from the palace security office, summoned by the radio call. Sam's facade began cracking at the edges. "We don't have time for this! Our tour leaves in 15 minutes!" He tugged Lily toward the edge of the crowd. "Come on, we're going." "Sir," Marwood's voice hardened slightly, "I need you to stop right there." "You have no right to detain us," Sam hissed, dropping all pretense of friendliness. "You're a ceremonial guard, not police." "Active duty military, sir," Marwood corrected him, still maintaining perfect composure. "And the safety of a child supersedes all other protocols." The female police officer had reached them now, crouching down to Lily's level. "Hello there," she said gently. "I'm Officer Wilson. What's your name?" Sam interrupted before Lily could answer. "This is ridiculous! We're leaving!" He pulled Lily roughly toward him. "Tell these people you're fine so we can go, Lily." Lily looked at Officer Wilson, then at Marwood, whose unwavering presence seemed to give her courage. Something shifted in her expression, a decision made. "He hurts me," she whispered, the words tumbling out in a rush before fear could silence her again. "All the time. Please don't let him take me home." Sam's face contorted with rage. "You lying little—" He lunged forward, grabbing for Lily's arm. Marwood moved with the swift precision of battlefield training, stepping between them. "Sir, I need you to step back." "Get out of my way!" Sam snarled, reaching for Lily around Marwood's imposing figure. "She's coming with me." "No, sir," Marwood replied with quiet finality. "She is." "Not." Sam's hand shot out, grabbing Marwood's shoulder in what would prove to be a catastrophic error of judgment. "I said get out of my way, toy soldier!" What happened next occurred so quickly that many in the crowd would later disagree about the exact sequence of events. Marwood's response was a textbook military restraint technique, efficient, controlled, and executed with surgical precision. In one fluid motion, Marwood pivoted, breaking Sam's grip while simultaneously securing his wrist in a joint lock that brought the larger man instantly to his knees. Sam's expression transformed from rage to shock as he found himself immobilized by a grip that applied just enough pressure to control without causing injury. "Palace security, sir. Don't move." The two security officers had reached them quickly, taking control of the situation. One moved to secure Sam while the other created space between the growing crowd and Lily. "He's hurting me," Sam protested, his face contorted with manufactured pain. "This guard attacked me for no reason." "Actually, he didn't," called out the elderly man who had attempted to help earlier. He stepped forward from the crowd, his wife beside him. "We've been watching this man's behavior toward the child for the past 30 minutes. She's clearly terrified of him." "And I have it all on video," added the young mother who had been filming discreetly. "The bruises, the threatening behavior, everything." "Officer." Wilson had gently guided Lily a few steps away, keeping herself between the child and Sam. "Can you show me your arms, sweetheart?" she asked quietly. Lily hesitated, then slowly pushed up her sleeves, revealing what the officer's experienced eyes immediately recognized as systematic abuse. Bruises at various healing stages, some shaped distinctly like fingerprints. "Those could be from anything," Sam protested, struggling against the security officer's grip. "Kids fall all the time. Lily, tell them! Tell them how clumsy you are!" Lily flinched at his raised voice, but remained silent, her eyes fixed on Marwood, who had resumed his professional bearing, though he remained close enough to intervene if necessary. "Sir, we're going to need you to come with us," the security officer informed Sam, securing his hands behind his back. "There are serious questions that need answering." "This is outrageous!" Sam's voice rose as he was pulled to his feet. "You can't do this! She's my stepdaughter. I have rights." "And she has the right to safety," Officer Wilson replied firmly, her hand resting protectively on Lily's shoulder. "The evidence suggests that right has been violated." The second security officer spoke quietly into his radio, summoning additional police support. The crowd had grown larger now, tourists whispering and pointing as the scene unfolded. "You'll regret this," Sam spat as he was led away, twisting to glare at Lily. "When they realize you're lying, you'll come home and then—" "That's enough," the officer holding him interrupted, tightening his grip slightly. "One more threat and I'll add intimidation of a witness to, the charges." As Sam was escorted toward the security office, his angry protests fading into the distance, Lily remained frozen in place, her small body trembling with the aftermath of terror and the unfamiliar sensation of hope. The female officer knelt beside her, speaking gently. "You're safe now. He can't hurt you anymore." "He always finds a way," Lily whispered, years of conditioning evident in her certainty. "He said no one would believe me, that they'd send me back to him because no one else wants me." Marwood, who had maintained a respectful distance while security handled the situation, now took a decision as significant as breaking formation had been moments earlier. He stepped forward and knelt to Lily's level, his ceremonial bearskin cap making the movement somewhat awkward, but his eyes completely serious. "I believed you," he said simply, "and I always will." The words, spoken with absolute conviction, seemed to penetrate the layers of fear that had built up around Lily's heart. For the first time since she'd arrived at the palace, her shoulders relaxed slightly, and her eyes held something besides terror, the first fragile spark of trust. Officer Wilson wrapped a blanket around Lily's shoulders after the palace medical team documented her injuries. The elderly couple and other witnesses had provided their contact information. Marwood, relieved from ceremonial duty, sat outside the palace medical office. He'd removed his bearskin cap, revealing close-cropped dark hair. "Sergeant Marwood," Officer Wilson approached, "Lily's asking for you inside." Inside, Lily sat with hot chocolate, her injuries treated. When Marwood entered, her face brightened. "You came back," she said, surprised. "I said I would," Marwood replied, taking the chair beside her. "How are you feeling?" "Better." She studied him curiously. "You look different without your big hat." A small smile crossed Marwood's face. "Most people say that." "Lily's been telling us about her situation," Officer Wilson said quietly. "Her mother passed away 14 months ago, and her stepfather gained custody as the only legal guardian." "He was nice at first," Lily said, gripping her mug. "But then he changed. He said it was my fault, that I was bad." "None of this was your fault," Marwood said firmly. "You were very brave today." "What happens now?" Lily asked, voice small. "Where will I go?" "Child Services will arrange emergency foster care while the case is processed," Officer Wilson explained. "Foster care!" Fear returned to Lily's face. "Sam said foster homes are horrible places where nobody loves you." "That's not true," Officer Wilson assured her. "Foster parents are carefully screened and what if—" Marwood interrupted, pausing briefly. "What if there was another option?" Both looked at him questioningly. "I'm certified as an emergency foster parent through the regiment's family support program," Marwood explained. "It's part of our service to military families in crisis." He turned to Lily. "I can't promise it would be perfect. I've never been a father before. But I can promise you would be safe and never hurt again. Are you suggesting temporary placement?" Officer Wilson asked. "Initially, yes," Marwood confirmed, eyes on Lily. "But I'd like to begin the adoption process as soon as possible, if Lily would be comfortable with that." The word adoption hung in the air. Lily's eyes widened, disbelief and hope warring on her face. "You want to adopt me?" she whispered. "But you don't even know me." "I know you're brave enough to signal for help when needed," Marwood replied. "I know. You've survived things no child should experience. And sometimes, people recognize the family they're meant to have the moment they meet. I've served in many roles, Lily, but being your father might be the most important duty I'll ever accept. If you'll have me." Officer Wilson excused herself to handle paperwork, leaving them alone with this possibility. "You won't get tired of me or change your mind?" Lily asked, years of rejection evident in her voice. "In the regiment, we make promises we don't break," Marwood said. "I won't change my mind." For the first time, a real smile transformed Lily's face, not the careful, practiced expression she'd worn earlier, but something genuine that reached her eyes. "I'd like that," she whispered. "I'd like that very much." Marwood nodded, emotion briefly tightening his throat. "Then I'll start the paperwork today." Officer Wilson returned with forms, and Marwood filled them out with military precision. His signature represented not just a legal commitment, but a promise to the small girl watching with growing trust. 3 hours later, Sergeant Marwood walked through the palace gates with Lily by his side. His ceremonial uniform had been replaced by civilian clothes, but his military bearing remained unmistakable. "Ready to go home?" he asked, offering his hand. Lily slipped her small hand into his. "Home?" she repeated, testing the word and finding it finally held no fear. "Yes, I'm ready." "What would you have done if you witnessed signs of abuse like those Sergeant Marwood noticed? How many of us would have the courage to break from our expected roles when a child's safety is at stake. The signals children use to ask for help are often subtle. A gesture, a look, or behavior that doesn't fit the situation. Learning to recognize these signs could make you someone's hero. If you found this story moving, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories about those who serve beyond ceremonial duties. Don't forget to press the bell icon to never miss our uploads. Share this with someone who believes in protecting the vulnerable, no matter the cost. Check out our previous videos appearing on your screen now. We'll be back tomorrow with another story that reminds us what true service means.